What's up? What's up? What is up? You know what it is. It's another episode of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, aka the Ball Hawk, aka the Mouth of South, aka Mr. Excessive Celebration, aka Breezy, here with the crew, doing what we do, bringing you sports, business, and entertainment on a Friday. We only know how to do it one way, rough, rugged, and raw. If you have never been involved and participated in this experience that we call the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, make sure you fasten your seatbelt and be prepared for some excitement. Today's episode is going to go by the title of Black Tax. That's right, Black Tax, because today, April 15th, is a day that we celebrate Jackie Robinson Day. 75 years ago, Jackie Robinson did the unthinkable in integrated baseball, so we are celebrating it. But this day, April 15th, also happens to be traditionally the day that we consider the deadline to file our taxes. So today's episode is going to go by the title of Black Tax. And you know how we do it. We don't stay simple. We make sure that we get adventurous and go in different directions. So that's what we're going to do with Black Tax as well. So like we said, be prepared. Put your feet up. Get some more coffee. Throw a little sip of some Jack or Yak in that coffee. Do what you do, because the Ball Hawk Sports Talk is coming to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up and stay woke, because this is the Ball Hawk Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hawk, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're going to give it to you rough, rugged, and raw, so come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go. Gentlemen, you know who we are. We are the Ball Hawk Sports Talk crew. I already introduced myself, but I get busy on Friday mornings with a very particular crew, one by the name of Big Flow Show. What's going on?
What's good, America? What's good? Happy Easter and all that good stuff.
Happy Easter, man. Absolutely. This is a good Friday, the goodest of all Fridays. Good Friday as we get ready to celebrate Easter. We also have ETP Else, the producer. What's up, my brother?
What's up, man? I'm just trying to figure out. I think I'm gonna move to Canada before I gotta pay these taxes. I'm not looking forward to the taxes.
So you let me get this right. Your cure for taxes is to go to a place that tax you 50% on the dollar.
Yeah, I'll come back when they tax. They got a different tax deadline, right?
I got you. That's a nice strategy. Let me know how that works.
I'm gonna
go back and forth.
Go to Cayman Islands or something.
As we all prepare to pay taxes, as we all prepare, hopefully, to celebrate, if Christianity is your faith, and you're celebrating Easter, we have this Jackie Robinson Day, a moment in time where we reflect upon the sacrifice that Jackie Robinson made. Jackie Robinson in 1947 did what no other person could do prior. He integrated baseball. Baseball, which was considered the great American pastime, as American as apple pie, happened to be as white as anything on the face of the earth prior to 1947, when Jackie Robinson decided enough is enough. And his decision obviously included a lot of other decision makers and executives, but reading the Jackie Robinson story on today, Jackie Robinson Day, as a crew, we circulated some stories that you don't hear about a lot. Jackie Robinson, from just on the Mount Rushmore of athletes, extends well beyond just baseball. Jackie Robinson was a bad man. Baseball really was like his seventh sport when you look at it, right? He was a pro football player. He played some pro basketball. He was a golfer, a swimmer. He ran track. And which one am I missing? Cricket. Tennis. Did I say tennis? No, tennis. So you got tennis, football, basketball, swimming, track. And then we know what he did in baseball. Jackie Robinson was a cold man. So I just wanted in the 75th year where we're celebrating this particular day and what it means, its significance to baseball, but well beyond baseball, that integration, because baseball, while it was as white as it could be, baseball, especially in 1947, was a microcosm of America. Most institutions, most pillars of society were the whiteness was protected. Here comes Jackie Robinson. So in this 75th year, let's celebrate the man and let's talk about some of his impact on baseball, his impact on our lives, his impact on our kids. We know the number 42 is synonymous with so much. New York City and Mayor Eric Adams is doing a lot to pay proper homage to Jackie Robinson. The 42, I think, is going to be donned on I don't know if it's Empire State Building or one of the skyscraper buildings in the city. On this day in the 75th year, let's make sure, we weren't able to give him his flowers because none of us were alive while he's alive, but let's make sure we pay respect to someone who I think not only broke down barriers in baseball, but broke down barriers in America that at that moment, 1947, was just all white. Everything black was negative. And so on today, Black Tax, this particular episode, let's celebrate what Jackie Robinson was able to do in baseball and extend beyond that. I know if any of you guys had any opinions about Jackie Robinson and what this celebration this day means or his impact beyond, but wanted to start the show there before we got into some other details. What do you guys think?
I never realized how much of a all-around athlete he was. Most of my Jackie Robinsons probably comes from the movie, right? Like a lot of people, I heard about him and, saw some clips here and there, but never really saw it. Didn't realize he was that much of an all-around athlete, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I guess the significance, there's never going to be another breakthrough like that in sports. We already got a couple brothers in hockey, so we pretty much have the fact that you said he was a swimmer, I think that's almost a story in and of itself that he was swimming back then, because I don't think we still haven't made the strides.
Brother's still struggling with swimming. Yeah, I know somebody down the street right now like, man, get in that pool.
But hey, he was golfing back then too. There's a lot of things. They picked the right guy, right? So they found a guy that had been around a lot of sports that weren't integrated, and then they brought him to the pastime. So, shout out. Glad that we keep celebrating. Glad that the Major League Baseball celebrates. I think everybody wears 42 today when they play, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Everyone wears 42. They've been doing that for a few years. But when you thought about the integration, Jackie Robinson was probably fourth on the list of people that you thought would be the one to integrate. You had, Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige, and then you had another young Negro Baseball League player. His name's escaping me. My apologies. But Jackie Robinson was what you thought to be fourth on that list. And then you go through the dynamics and sort of why they did it. Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige were on the older side. The younger player they didn't think that he would be the right person to integrate. So here comes Jackie Robinson. And I think he did all that he could have done in that position and then some, which is style and grace and while also being unapologetic about being black. And that's what I celebrate with Jackie Robinson. And yes, again, it's about baseball, but it's not. I've been in a corporate setting as the only black man there. You know what I mean? And I wasn't alive in 1947. So some of the integration concepts and the dynamics of integration, I think, still play into our lives today. A private school. The first time you went to a private school, I went to private school and tested into all of these, honors classes. The illustrious St. Thomas Aquinas of the greater Fort Lauderdale, Florida area. While it has been phenomenal experience, it was a phenomenal experience for me. And as you guys all know, I still have high school pride. That was a challenge. Freshman year, look around like, wait a minute, I rode to school with all these brothers, and then here I am in advanced math or whatever the course was, and where they at? I'm the only one. And immediately feeling compelled to take my book bag, and I used to like sit in the back to let the ladies see me. That day, I felt compelled to go to the front. And I think Jackie Robinson's story, I think, is so much broader and more meaningful than baseball. So I wanted to start the show here. ETP, anything to add?
Yeah, it's funny. We'll talk about different athletes. You know, we've had the LeBron, Michael Jordan debate, and you know, we talk about all the great athletes. But you know, I have to say that my position, my opinion is Jackie Robinson is the greatest professional athlete of all time. The fact that he's been able to, or he was able to during his career. I mean, he was, leading the league in so many statistical categories. He was winning, rookie of the year, MVP, second in hits and runs and leading the league in stolen bases, winning championships, all while having to maintain a level of composure that no athlete in the history of sports arguably has ever really had to deal with in terms of pressure. And baseball is not, you can't mail it in. The amount of focus that you need in order to perform as a baseball player in key moments, while getting death threats and dealing with all of the insurmountable external forces that are trying to throw you off your game, on top of the fact that officiating might not work in your favor because of bias and racism and all of this other stuff, and you're still persevering through it, and you have a Hall of Fame career. So I'm glad that the league is respecting and celebrating this. It's crazy that it's been 75 years, but also, there's people that are alive today that were watching baseball or couldn't couldn't go into the stadium, and it wasn't that long ago. But at the end of the day, 42, man, greatest professional athlete that ever lived.
Right on, man. 42. I love it. And I don't like that it's on that hat, but it is what it is. Me wearing a Boston Red Sox hat. You shot the slide that
It's
in.
ironic, man, because the
Yeah,
Red Sox wouldn't give him a tryout at the
wouldn't
time.
give me a
So
trial. And I guess this would be a perfect opportunity to say, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe both to our YouTube page and to our podcast. And I say that here because one of our live listeners, our live audience members, what's up, Glass Bart, says there's always going to be a Branch Rickey to assist in the fight for equality. And by that, he means because Branch Rickey, that's where the contract was signed. He was the executive there for the Brooklyn Dodgers and pushed for Jackie Robinson. He pushed for Jackie Robinson, and that's true. I think we call them allies now. In this last 2 years of wokeness, in the era of the camera phone capturing all these police brutality incidents, and another one has occurred this week. I don't call it police brutality, but aggressive policing. Let's call it that. That way we can take the politics out of it. We call them allies. People that don't stand by and watch the injustices continue. And Branch Rickey was that ally for Jackie Robinson. If we compared him to anyone in today's game and the significance that he has had beyond just the field of play, is there anybody that comes to mind? I mean, I know we got LeBron James and his what's the charter school called? Not Witness Academy, whatever the academy is called. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it. But he's got the school in Akron, Ohio. We've got Kareem, I think, that has probably been accepted, embraced as an advocate for racial justice issues. You got Jim Brown, who has notoriously been unapologetic about his blackness, although in recent years he's pivoted a bit. Is there anybody that you think of in our lifetime as a sports great that has had that amount of impact on the stories beyond the story of a sport, the injustices, for LeBron, the inadequate education opportunities? Is there anybody else that you look at that we would consider contemporary, or at least that has participated and competed in our lifetime, that you would even put on the same sentence as a Jackie Robinson in terms of his significance and impact beyond baseball?
I don't think there's anybody that is the convergence of elite performance and professional success with social social impact. There's nobody that did both, right? Like you have people that have made an impact socially. You have people that have performed at an elite level in the sport, but I don't think that there's been, it's like the only comparison would be like if Tiger Woods worked on prison reform. You know what I mean? Like
Got it.
There's no comparison.
Got it. Or Michael Jordan being, an advocate for something, or really standing up and standing out for something. It doesn't happen. I think that what Jackie Robinson did, before we move on, by just being himself and doing it with such grace and style, I think opened up doors for other players in that era, obviously. And the other player I was talking about, I mentioned Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige, the other player who was younger and people thought was a little more ready for the game of Major League Baseball, was Monty Irvin. So the fourth spot, when you created this hierarchy of players in the Negro Baseball League, the fourth spot was that held by Jackie Robinson, but he ascended to the role of integration. I don't know anyone that's integrated a school, that's integrated. I used to tease that I integrated the transactional floor at my corporate law firm, because most Black attorneys at that time were litigating. I decided I wanted to be a transactional attorney, and I used to tease about it. And sometimes you cry to help from or you laugh to help from crying. But in my very limited role of, if indeed that was the case of integration, I had every amenity afforded to me. People were bending over backwards to make sure that, I was good. Now, were there some interactions and awkward social moments and not being invited to lunches with certain partners? Yes. But it pales in comparison to what Jackie Robinson went through. If you think about the entire country looking at this man, and while in Black households they celebrated that there was finally justice in baseball, because it's baseball, it's a sport, it should be as objective as possible, but it wasn't. You had two different leagues, and Jim Crow laws applied essentially to baseball. It pales in comparison to what this man went through, and I think that it's worth celebrating. And I do like that comment from one of our live audience members. He's Joel Florima. I never heard that last name before. He says Ali. Yeah. Ali is probably, I got a chance to meet Ali, and I felt that same sense of Jackie Robinson, as everyone in Notre Dame world, South Bend, Indiana area knows that Muhammad Ali lived close to South Bend, Indiana. He lived in the northern part of Michigan, and you would see him in South Bend, Indiana at the time. I ran into him a few times. He was always, even through the Parkinson's, he was always just a great person, man. He had a gregarious personality, even with Parkinson's. And yes, when I met him, I felt that sense of Jackie Robinson. I had met a pioneer that done so much for causes beyond the sport. Ali's a good one. Ali's a good one. But you
I would agree with Ali. I would say, just from an impact on the sport when it comes to breaking the color barrier, Tiger almost has to get a notch above when you think about the fact that Black people were playing baseball when Jackie Robinson did. They just weren't integrated. Black people weren't playing golf until Tiger Woods doing it. Like, he changed a lot. But from a social aspect, he adds nothing. So
you had some Black golfers, but not
like that.
Yeah. Fun fact, Joe Louis actually integrated the PGA Tour.
Really?
After he was done boxing. Yeah. Or while he was boxing, actually. So, good documentary. HBO put it out. But yeah, Joe Louis, the famous boxer, integrated the PGA Tour.
And you had people like Charlie Siffer. You had names, but while I will give those names, none of them were at the level of production and the quality of golf that Tiger Woods came into the game playing. So I agree
with you. He didn't have to withstand as much by any standards because of the Jackie Robinsons and the Lee Elders of the world. I would just say that impact from the standpoint of integrating of the sport, I never watch golf. I mean, golf, I'd put golf on to fall asleep on Sundays if I wanted to catch some Z's since I didn't care. But Tigers in the game, golf viewership goes up 60%. People care. And the black people started golfing more and more and more and more because of Tiger. So no one.
I struggle with the Tiger one though, man, just because I'm a Michael Jordan sycophant. I'm one of the disciples who wears the 23 flag and will argue to the end of my life that he's the greatest of all time basketball player. When someone throws it in my face that he did very little beyond basketball to stand up for injustices and to speak with a bullhorn about the causes that black people care about and the impact of black people, I got to be quiet. There's nothing that I can really say to defend him.
And that
feels sort of like Tiger as well.
Worse.
I mean, Tiger went out of his way to say that he wasn't black, or he wanted everyone to understand every thread of DNA within him. So, but he would not embrace I'm black, and I get it. He didn't want to deny his Asian, his Asian culture, but it felt a little bit like, really, bro, we riding for you, and you
felt a little Sammy Sosa-ish.
It felt a little bit like, don't call me black, call me anything but black, in this America. But he did do it. He was great on the links and on the tour. Tiger Woods, absolutely, I'll put him up there. But it's tough to find someone. I think that 75 years later, and we still struggle to find someone, says something. But I also think that it was because of the sacrifices that Jackie Robinson and the likes, who we just tried to share other names, made, that this new generation, Generation Z, that has felt emboldened about speaking out, that has been unapologetic about being the champion of causes, that has gone to bat for prison reform, that has marched in the streets when there has been some tragic death at the hands of a police, that has worn warm-up shirts that speak to equality and supported a movement like Black Lives Matter. I think they've opened the door for the next generation. I think we are in prime position for one of these young athletes to really take it to the next level. And I think we should celebrate Jackie Robinson today on this Black Tax episode of Ball Hog Sports Talk, the 75th anniversary of Jackie Robinson Day. We salute you, Mr. Robinson. And I hope that you are proud of the work that we continue to do, both in your name and in your honor and beyond. Anybody want to get final word before we move on?
Yeah, no, I think it's the difference is because ultimately I don't want to. I mean, I know I agree with everything that you said about Tiger Woods, et cetera. But the reality is, like, Tiger Woods, it's not so much Jackie Robinson at the time. He wasn't proactively taking up a cause. He was basically just trying to endure and perform and do his job, and obviously it had a much greater impact and the stakes were much higher. But like Tiger Woods, when Tiger Woods won the Masters and they talk about serving fried chicken, and obviously right. Serena and Venus dealing with the tournament at Indian Wells, and they had to boycott because of race. All of there's always something that being an elite Black athlete comes with, that Black tax of having to endure, especially when you're becoming an elite athlete in a sport that's predominantly non-white.
Right.
I mean, that's predominantly white. You have to endure this, but there's nothing to compare because Jackie Robinson broke down that barrier in a way that essentially lowered the volume on that severity in any sport, right? Like, obviously you're still gonna have that response, but he was an example not just in baseball but for all sports, because there was integration in other sports, football, etc. Nobody really talked about it, but after Jackie Robinson was able to put that stake in the ground, it at least kind of softened the blow to an extent for any other athletes coming afterwards. While they can still be proactive about it,
right?
They just didn't have to necessarily endure that that direct focus.
And I love this comment. Thank you, Alvin Miller. He says also the beginning of the end for many Black businesses. While he loves Mr. Robinson, the Bruin, and he was a Bruin, known as a UCLA tailback. I mean, this week has been eye-opening for me. I didn't know Jackie Robinson was that bad of a man in terms of an athlete. He was known as a tailback at UCLA. Right? If you look at all of his accomplishments at the collegiate level, he was a bad man in a lot of sports that had nothing to do with baseball. But that first part of Mr. Miller's comment, and again, we do appreciate your support. If for those of you who don't know, Alvin Miller played at Notre Dame. His daughter was a UCLA Bruin and had a great run there. She's been a guest on the show and is going to do phenomenal things. She's a part of that Generation Z. She's a part of the movement. Remember, we had her on and she talked about being outspoken and her teammates standing up for causes that matter to them. She's a part of that Generation Z. But the first part of that also beginning of the end of many Black businesses, because the integration does come with a cost. The Negro Baseball League, unfortunately, suffered when there was an exodus of their top talent going to play in Major League Baseball. Black law firms that have been notoriously, affording opportunities to attorneys of color suffer when there's a mass exodus of top talent going to some of these top white shoe law firms. And I think that statement itself really is profound, and one that I didn't wrestle with talking about today, but quickly, like, there is a give and a take, right? There's a cost to be paid, a price to be paid because of the integration. And I think Jackie Robinson and that moment and its significance and meaning to America also did come with some sacrifice. I know there's been a lot of talk about Tulsa and Black Wall Street. There's been a lot of talk about communities that had, middle class working communities that had our teachers and our bankers and people who were working class Black folk that lived amongst other Black folk, and what that meant for our own appreciation and pride in ourselves, and how that then led to a proliferation of their kids going to historically Black colleges and universities that we refer to HBCUs now. And a lot of that now has been unraveled, and we're going to hop into sports, business, entertainment. A lot of that has been unraveled. This moment also comes where on this show, we've dealt with the battle, the inherent battle that is top athletes choosing to go to PWIs, predominantly white institutions, versus historically Black colleges and universities. So as we celebrate this 75th year of Jackie Robinson Day, we call this show Black Tax because we want to deal with what does that mean? And I think that's one of the taxes that we pay with the integration, is that, the Negro League essentially was doomed. Unless brothers cumulatively, at least within a certain amount of time, probably got opportunities because of that tax that the Negro League had to pay, inherent to that integration. And the same thing is going on in different aspects of business and education. And so, again, man, I tee it up just as food for thought. I don't have any points that wanted to be made. I just wanted to celebrate Jackie Robinson and also, understand the significance of what he was able to do, and that significance, how it doesn't just mean baseball. So deeper than we normally start. Anybody want to give me a final word on it as I transition? I don't know if you want to weigh in on a Big Flow Show ETP before we transition. Happy Jackie Robinson Day to everybody. I'll let you guys take it away from here. Anything?
Just to kind of follow up on your last topic that we didn't even plan on touching, but I've wrestled with that myself many times. It's like integration is great for the individual Black families, but really it was tough on the Black community when you think about it, because as you mentioned, the greatest and the brightest and greatest and most successful move out of the Black community and end up living in predominantly white neighborhoods which leaves the Black community, the people who basically couldn't get out, not having as much role models, not having as much of an influence, not having as much of an influx of money, and makes it easier for the community to get left behind. And I think that Alvin did bring up a good point. I mean, you have Negro leagues, you're going to have the businesses that thrive based on the league and the peripheral things. Again, all those things are gone. We're starting to see the re-rise of the HBCU. So it speaks back to, we mentioned last week how significant it is. A team like Notre Dame is going to play Tennessee State, right?
They're playing Tennessee State.
Tennessee State.
But Notre Dame fans have been up in arms. And there was someone who commented and said they wanted to come on here and debate the topic. And I don't remember the gentleman's name. He was a Notre Dame fan. And I didn't respond yet, but I plan to respond. Would love to have you on to debate the topic. And any of our audience members, if you hear something that you want to debate, by all means, just say it in the comments and we'll try to get you on. But sorry to interrupt, but I
no. So I mean, but there is that's the side of the coin that, like, integration really hurt the Black community. It gave opportunity to the individual Black families, which, the three of us are all, taking advantage of. But as from a community standpoint, it did take back. And it is one of those things that makes you scratch your head. Like, how do you break that cycle? I don't know. What's the sacrifice you want to do as an individual Black family to go back into a community and do that? But really, again, the Negro League is a very good example of something that's like, all right, well, that league just died. And I think Alvin Miller just put down, we had on there, is like, he wished he would have seen some white players go to the Negro Leagues, and maybe as opposed to just integrating the leagues, I think maybe what he's getting at is just instead of just poaching all the players, integrate the leagues and actually legitimize those teams as part, welcome them into the major leagues, and then switch them up. That would have been the best move, right? But really the opposite was, all right, we're just going to take your best players now that we're happy, make our league better, and to hell with your league. So I don't know. It's deeper than that. I don't know what the proper solution is. I'm never on anyone's planning committee, but it is something to think about.
And while you have simplified it and describing it that way, I think it is that simple. Right? You're saying it's deeper than that, and there are layers, but it is that simple, that whether it be the institution of baseball, or let's substitute baseball and put, education, whether it be the colleges. This is what Dion was talking about. Primetime is basically saying you can get a good experience and a great education at Jackson State University. Don't go believe that their ice is colder. You ain't got to leave the Black community in order to get all the things available in terms of a college football experience with a high level education. And, he's got a point. It feels a little disingenuous or hypocritical for me to say it because I chose Notre Dame. And I remember a conversation I had with a FAMU grad. And he was like, man, you can't pass up that opportunity. You got to go take that opportunity. And we've talked about it for a while, how at least have comparable experiences before you can ask one of these 4 or 5 star athletes to, go. And that was my position. But I'm glad to see people are saying, no, I'm not going to wait. With name, image, and likeness sort of balancing the playing field a little bit, I'm not going to wait. ETP, anything before we get on out of here, man? I know we got a lot deeper than we thought, but the concept of Black tax on tax day, we're celebrating Jackie Robinson Day, 75 years removed from 1947 when he integrated the sport. Each and every one of us, whether it be the education that we've obtained, whether it be the sports experiences that we've had, whether it be the professional experiences that we have thrived in and had to endure in some cases being noticeably non-Black, we've all had to deal with that Black tax. And the Black tax, I think, is something that, we'll use for the rest of the show, but something we should probably think about a little bit more and get even deeper in. I'll give you last word, ETP, before we move on to next.
No, I mean, all good points. I think the challenge or the dilemma is, white institutions are based on the history of, American capitalist society. White institutions and organizations are at an advantage because they're better resourced, right? And so ironically, as a result of, the work and the labor of Black people, throughout society. So it's hard, right? When, it's like, okay, we'll go to an HBCU or support Black and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's really hard, especially as an athlete. If you're an elite athlete, you want to go somewhere where there's the best resources, the best exposure, and 99 times out of 100. But Deion Sanders is a great example, that hopefully is starting, that momentum and that trend to equalize it, right? Where going to an HBCU or being at a Black law firm has the same access to exposure and resources and respect and recognition as being at a white law firm. So it takes, we got here, hundreds of years to get to this point. It's not going to change overnight, but obviously we see progress, and it's just fitting on a day for Jackie Robinson. We see what the impact is, and I know this is a sports show, but obviously we extend beyond everything that just is in between the lines of the field of play. So just got to respect the progress and keep pushing forward.
And not to pat ourselves on the back. I'm gonna go ahead and pat ourselves on the back. This trio has been in the locker room. Among this trio, been in the locker room with the GOATs, Hall of Famers. We've been in the boardrooms with multi-millionaire executives. We've been in nightclubs with the A-list of entertainment. So the reason we do this show and bring together sports, business, and entertainment is I do think that we have the credibility. But when you think of this black tax in relation to all of those experiences that we've had, it's something that transcends all of it. The price to be paid. Let's hop into some NBA playoffs, man. That got a lot deeper than I wanted to, but it felt good, man. On Jackie Robinson Day, we're supposed to be deep. And please continue to weigh in. For any of you in the live audience that just hopped on, the question was, and we'll lay it out there, and please continue to chime in. When you think of Jackie Robinson and his impact on baseball, the integration, and just America in that moment, are there any contemporary athletes, anyone that you have watched in your lifetime that you would put in that same category of impact beyond their sport? So please continue to weigh in. Let's hop into some basketball, man, because the NBA playoffs have started. Excuse me, play-ins. I got to get the jargon right. It ain't playoffs yet. It's play-ins. And I don't know, when you look up 20 years from now, you look up the 2022 NBA playoffs, do the play-in games even get cited on Wikipedia? I don't know, but we're still at play-in level, not playoff. And the play-in level of NBA playoffs. This week we had on the Eastern Conference side, you had the 7 and 8 play each other for the 7th spot, and you had the Cavs play the Nets. The Nets won. Then you had on the Western Conference side, you had the Clippers play the T-Wolves, and the T-Wolves won. We're gonna get back to that game. Then you had yesterday, you had the 9-10s. Or was it? Yeah, 2 days ago. You had the 9-10s on Wednesday night. On the Eastern Conference side, you had Charlotte play the Hawks. The Hawks won. And on the Western Conference, you have the Spurs play the Pelicans, and the Pelicans won. I see my man Cheeky Black saying "Go Pelicans" and spelling "go" in the most obnoxious New Orleans way possible. Go Pelicans.
That's French.
That's French. That's what it is. It's
Cajun.
It's Cajun. But so now what that means is whoever lost the 9-10, I think for our audience, it's worth explaining it now that we've got this new concept of play-in. Whoever loses the 9-10 is out. So Charlotte had to pack their bags and go. We're going to talk about that. They didn't go quietly, shall I say. The Spurs lost, and everyone started to wonder whether or not we saw the last of Coach Pop. He has not answered that question. We shall see. So with the Hawks winning, that means they play the loser of the 7-8 game on the Eastern Conference side, who was the Cavs. They go and play the Cavs in Cleveland because Cleveland was a higher seeded team. But the early odd makers have the Hawks as the favorite. Not early because the game's tonight. They have the Hawks as the favorite in that game. The Spurs, like I said, is out. But the Pelicans then go and play the loser of the 7-8 game, which is the Clippers, and they got to go to LA because the Clippers had the higher seed. All right, so that is your update. So tonight you got the Hawks at the Cavs and the Pelicans at the Clippers. Now that we got the basketball part of it done, the play-ins had some other storylines that were pretty interesting. First one, as my man with all his French, bonjour, go Pelicans, is chiming in live, we might as well deal with Zion Williamson doing 360 dunks in the pregame. Still looking every bit about 340. But the weight in this particular math equation, as I think back on physics, is not affecting his ability to fly. He's still doing 360 dunks that look like they would have at least been, he could have got to the finals in this year's NBA slam dunk contest. Especially on this year's NBA slam dunk contest. He would have got to the finals with that one dunk. And he's doing these dunks in pregame before the Pelicans go out and take on the Spurs. What do you guys think, man? I don't. They have not given us any sign whatsoever that Zion Williamson is going to play this year. I think that he is just out of it. Right. Initially, the timeline was that he was going to be ready for opening day. He's missed the entire season. What do you think it is? Is it just he doesn't want to be out there? There's still rumors that his dad and family don't like New Orleans for whatever reason, probably because they spell go Geaux. And, you know, all of that extra food that's at his fingertips is leading to the weight not being maintained. But for some reason, it seems as though they're not really buying into the Pelicans. Meanwhile, the Pelicans have gone out and acquired Big CJ, and CJ is balling. McCollum, he balled out, right? And they look like a good team. Brandon Ingram is doing what we thought he was going to do in his transition from the Lakers. He has become, I think, it's tough to put a number on it, but he's become one of the top offensive players in the NBA. Yet, it seems as though no Zion and no real future as to what Zion's going to do. What do you guys think about Zion in New Orleans?
My question is, how much healthier do you have to become to play when you can do a 360 dunk? Like what muscle is still healing up, or what is it that you can't do? I can do the 360, but I can't go between the legs, so I'm not ready to come back. I don't understand why he's not playing. Him and Ben Simmons got some sort of thing going. Who could get more free money and hold out? But I think this man should get out there and get some limited minutes at least and play. What else is there to do? I don't know, but I don't think we're going to see him because
my man Cheeky Black, my resident Pelicans fan, says that he's not playing this year. I just don't understand. I agree with you. What else you got to do in order to be able to do that and defy gravity with all that weight in the air and dunk the ball? Now, I think when he was playing, he averaged like 27 points a game, 27.1 points a game, something like that. His field goal percentage was right about 61%, something like that, because primarily he was a dunker. So if that is your role, and I see you doing 360 dunks in pregame, I feel as though at a minimum you can serve in that role. But I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why come back for one game? Like they're not gonna go to the playoffs. They're gonna lose to the Clippers. Get geared up. Like, why throw a monkey wrench?
What if they win?
The team? Okay, then you get to play 4 games, like because you're not getting out the first round.
They're not getting.
I mean, you're gonna be Phoenix. They're gonna be Phoenix. They're not gonna get swept by Phoenix. Of course, they're gonna get swept. The Clippers might do some damage. They might gentleman sweep, but nobody's getting past Phoenix.
Oh, here we go. That's what we like. We like live bets. You know what I mean? It ain't just FanDuel that's taking these bets. I see, because you just said that the Pelicans are going to get beat by the Clippers. You said that. What you had said was, and we have a live challenge on that. My man, Cheeky Black, says, I'll take that bet, ETP. So we'll make it a general bet.
You did
some push-ups, something. I don't know what the laws are about taking live bets, and I'm not a bookie, so I don't want to go to jail. Let's make it a gentleman's bet.
We can make it a bet. We can make it a bet.
How many push-ups we talking here? 15?
50. At least 7. I'll take
10 at a time.
7. That number's too exact for me to think that you didn't just fail at 8 last night. You tried to get to 8 and then you're like, we can do at least 7.
Hey, I
He
can't.
said straight cash on you. Trying to get us
It's not
arrested, man. Ain't messing with you, go Tigers.
Yeah.
Go Pelicans. Ain't messing with you.
Hit me offline. Hit me
Hit me
offline.
offline.
I'll take that bet straight up.
You might have some action.
Pelicans are going home. I love New Orleans, my favorite city, but sorry, they're not getting
over
out of
Boston.
play-in.
This whole concept of play-ins, though, like Pelicans in 4, and what you mean by that is 4 quarters, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if they don't win in 4 quarters, they out of there, right? This whole concept of play-in is off. Like, and we saw because Charlotte showed up, looked like they didn't want to play nobody. I mean, they look like they ain't want to play nobody. They got whooped from beginning to end. Atlanta had basically the Freaknik 2022 in the stands. You had Quavo, Offset, everybody was in there. Jermaine Dupri was in there doing the old Laffy Taffy. That wasn't his song, but it was that era. They was doing everything. Laffy Taffy. They was doing everything in Atlanta at the expense of the Bobcats. I call them Bobcats too. Because that's how
they got demoted.
Right,
they got demoted.
Get this man some coffee.
The way they play, take it back to the Bobcats.
Right, they did. All right, because you're going to call yourself the Hornets and go out there and get stung. They got whooped, man. They didn't look like they wanted to play. And I understand why they didn't get up to, and it's been analyzed for the last several days through Miles Bridges. And we'll talk about Miles Bridges and his actions. But it's been analyzed why they didn't show up to play. And I think it'd be tough to show up just as an athlete. You know, the psyche that it takes to play in the playoffs and that killer instinct that you need, knowing that this is the playoffs, it doesn't seem as though the Bobcats, now known as the Hornets, showed up with that killer instinct. And I think it's just because it's not truly the playoffs. It's a play-in. It's like it's an appetizer to the meal. And they failed to show up in rare form and they got bounced. I think that's the challenge with these play-ins. But Miles Bridges took it to another level. Miles Bridges was frustrated. He got ejected from the game, and then he tried to throw his mouthpiece at a heckling fan. And he missed and hit this little girl. The little girl seemed unfazed by it. He's been charged $50,000. He's been fined $50,000 by the NBA. He was, I thought, very noble in holding himself accountable and saying that he let his temper get the best of him. That was sort of the worst of his actions. He regrets it, and he'll take anything that the NBA, any fine or any penalty that the NBA levies. So I thought he was very responsible in how he handled it. But these heckling fans, you just got ejected. They're walking you out. Security's walking you out in an opponent's arena, at an opponent's arena. And you'll notice that in all the play-in games, all the home teams won. So if there's any question about home court advantage, at least in the play-in rounds, we proved that it matters. You're walking to the locker room, being escorted after being ejected, and there's a belligerent fan yelling over the doggone rail at you, and Miles Bridges lost it. He tried to throw his mouthpiece. You know how mad you got to be to throw your mouthpiece at somebody?
Well, you know he would have never gotten picked to integrate Major League Baseball.
No.
Never would have happened.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, man. He hit that little girl trying to hit that man.
But it's crazy because in reverse, if somebody threw something at, especially a mouthpiece, which is disgusting, if a fan threw at a player, they're never coming back, right? Like, that's pretty much the agreed penalty, right?
If you throw anything now, after the
you throw anything at this point.
Yeah,
so him only getting, I mean, not 50. Look, 50 grand is good money, but that being said, I don't know if it balances out, because in reverse, the penalty and the punishment would have been much greater and extreme. I mean, it wouldn't have been monetary, but they would have been banned for life. So I guess I just question, is the financial fine? I mean, you threw a mouthpiece with your germs and a pandemic and all of this other stuff going on.
Has he been vaccinated? Does that
Right.
play into
So you
your
think
equation?
he got off scot-free? Throwing
I mean,
a mouthpiece
look,
at a fan.
50 grand, but, you know, it's like Randy Moss, right? What's 50 grand?
How wet was
Straight
it?
cash.
Was
But
it
it was
relatively dry at the
Straight
time,
out,
or
no,
was
straight
it
out the mouth.
it was in his
Right.
mouth.
some slobber?
Slobber and all. And hit
Yeah.
that little girl with the doggone mouthpiece.
Where did it hit her? And hopefully, like in the
It
leg.
hit her like in the
shoulder.
shoulder and the back area.
Did it catch chin? Or
It did not catch chin.
Okay.
If he would hit
It
that
went in
girl in
the
the
mouth.
face, if he hit that little girl in the face, he might have been in big trouble. But it does go to show like that very thin line when it comes to fandom and people getting into game. And all the fan was doing was being a good fan for a home team. He's giving you the business. Not only did you get ejected, you're gonna hear about it going out. Now, I'm assuming he didn't say anything that was out of bounds. Miles Bridges just seemed like he was just fed up. But I think it goes to the whole psyche of the playing. Like, man, I'm not trying to, it's like it's a trap game. But with everything at stake. Because you're thinking about the playoffs, that's not really the playoffs, it's a play-in. Jordan seemed to be upset about it. The Hornets, I'll call them by their real name, had a promising season, but not quite there yet.
Man, take that comment off the screen. I'm tired of reading it.
I was just making sure that we addressed it. Because, you know what I mean? I want to make sure you saw it. Is that the case? Was the play-in round created for LeBronis to make sure that he made it? Because if so, he failed. And we said it last week. We can't believe the man didn't even make a play.
So he's Greek now? Is that what he is?
LeBronis.
They turned him into the Greek Giannis, LeBronis. Come on now. So for those of you guys who are not able to see it, we have one of these listeners, if you want to call him that, saying that the playing game was created so LeBron could make the playoffs. No, if you pay attention, they're doing play-ins in basketball in the NCAA tournament, and those teams are going on to win games in the playoffs. So therefore, it's a success, and they're trying to give people more reason not to tank. So if you paid any attention to sports at all, you would understand it has nothing to do with our Greek friend LeBronis. It is surely to make basketball more relevant at the end and have less teams tank. Thank you very much.
Translation, they did it for LeBron. That's what I heard. Maybe. What you was really saying.
Maybe.
But the argument is that it was a pandemic innovation because of the shortened season, right? And there was excitement about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, LeBron could make the playoffs."
Right.
Let's throw him in there.
Throw him in there. Yeah. But yet they still didn't make the playoffs. What do you got?
Yeah, they lost.
Russell Westbrook went all in on Frank Vogel, calling him out right before he got fired. Don't kick man while he's down. After Russell Westbrook made us all feel sorry for him about his name being changed to Westbrook and his kids being embarrassed about the name now, and they can't bring the kids to the game because they don't want they as parents, they don't want their kids to hear their name mangled like that. That same man went out there and just straight up threw Frank Vogel under the bus. I'm talking about all four tires right here. You're going to take this, homie. You're going to get this.
Again, another non-candidate for integrating Major League Baseball.
Oh, Westbrook would have been the best. He would have been the best. They had to have a whole new TV station to follow him around.
You mentioned another person. You mentioned Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, they're saying might play. In like game 3 of the first round. I don't know how that's a good idea. There's already been suggestions as soon as he walks on the court, if you're even close to being in a penalty, just foul him and make him go to the foul line. Let's literally just take all the therapy.
Just give him the jumpers.
Let's just take his therapy and burn it right there in the first second of being on the court. Because imagine that's the first thing he has to do.
Another non-candidate for integrating Major League Baseball.
We gotta have
Look how far we've come.
Look how far we have come. Look how far we have
come.
But
even like the thing about Westbrook that's funny is if Frank Vogel had done his job, Westbrook would have been coming off the bench, and then he would have been mad about that.
Yeah.
He's being 100. Y'all should have benched me when I started throwing them bricks up instead of letting me keep embarrassing myself. You knew I should have came out.
I had one last jab to throw at Westbrook, and I posted it that video where it basically responds to the interview and says, I guess this was Frank Vogel's fault. And it's a compilation of all the unbelievably bad shots that he took. Yeah, the turnovers, just like inexplicable. Like, bro,
alley-oops.
Bad alley oops. I mean, he tried to shoot one off the backboard that hit the shot clock. Like, how does
You
but
think he has CTE?
he might have CTE. He might have CTE.
He played football. I don't know. Maybe we'll check his high school tape.
But he is going to be a Hall of Famer. Ben Simmons.
They're letting anybody in these days.
I wouldn't go that far. Westbrook he deserves it.
Can bad years erase good years?
Not
or do you
in the
just
tail
have to give him Hall of Fame? I mean, as a musician, if you come out with a really bad album, it can tarnish your legacy. You forget how good you used to be. So as bad as he's been playing now, even though technically his numbers probably still aren't the worst, but as bad as he played, can it erase the Hall of Fame stuff that he did?
No.
I don't think so. Not in your late years. Just like, hey, as an MJ disciple,
how old is Westbrook?
Michael
32?
Jordan with the Wizards was bad, but he's still the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Westbrook is what, 36? He's up there.
No.
He's got to be.
Like
35. He's up there. No, Westbrook's been in the league for a long time, man.
Well, he's not playing. It's not
33.
Because of physical decline.
I was closer.
You were closer. But still 30-something. 33 years old.
You still claim to be able to dunk at 43, so I don't want to hear.
Oh yeah, you still owe us a video.
I got it, man. I was taking
care
he's
in therapy. He's in therapy right now.
I'm getting edited. It's in the editing suite right now.
And as in therapy, I was taking care of myself at this point because that was not work related. But I'm almost there. My own diagnosis says I'll be ready to dunk here in about 2 weeks. Don't even worry about it. Westbrook been in the league since 2008.
So just got in the league.
That's 14 years, man.
Huh?
That's 14 years.
Well, give or take. You count this year? Do you count this year
because
as
of physical decline?
No?
It's not.
Do I count this year?
That's causing the.
Does this count as one of his NBA years, or is this more of a G League year? I'm just saying.
Hey, if he gets a G League year, all of them do. They all were a part of that abysmal performance, man. They all.
Not LeBronis.
LeBronis got stats, but at what cost? We used to always celebrate the fact that he would sacrifice some of the stat line in order to make sure his team won. Well, where was that this year?
He tried, but then he had Westbrook out there and Mr. Glass watching.
You know what? I'm not even going to try to talk to one of you LeBron fans because you just like me as a Michael Jordan fan. I ain't no talking to you, man. But I will say this because Ben Simmons being in Brooklyn and deciding to play game 3, possibly maybe game 4, it'll be interesting to see whether or not that's going to impact that series against the Celtics. Of all the upsets that have been projected, that's been the one that at this point, I think that the Brooklyn Nets are favored according to Vegas. But it brings me to the more important thing in this episode of Black Tax. The more important thing in Brooklyn was innocent New Yorkers, people just trying to go to work, were subjected to a heinous act of violence. I got calls from people. One, Shiggy Black, I appreciate you reaching out to me, man, and other people just to ask, were you on that subway? For those of you who don't know and didn't pay attention to the news this week, there was an act of violence. I would necessarily, I don't know. Was it? I don't know what the motive was behind it. But act of violence where someone goes in with a gas mask, sets off gas on a subway train in New York, and then injures a whole bunch of it. 23 people, I think, were injured. Just opens fire. Luckily, no one was killed.
Nobody.
No one was killed. No one.
Critical. There's a few in critical condition.
But no one's lost their life.
Thank God.
That we know.
What is he use? A 22?
I don't know what he shot with. I think it was a Glock.
I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, but that's just so amazing that you're in a subway train
and you don't kill nobody. You shoot
23 people and nobody died.
Yeah, pretty impressive, or not impressive as a marksman. But I say that to say this. The gentleman who is in custody now, who was a person of interest, elevated to a suspect, now an arrestee, is a black man, Frank James, 62 years old. He's been spotted on several YouTube videos with conspiracy theories. And in this episode of the Black Tax, you got to admit that, we got to admit that we don't see that many shooters in these mass shootings being black men. The conspiracy theories have, I think, started to increase over the years. And I just want to make sure I tell everyone within the sound of our voice, if you're a conspiracy theorist and you think everything in America related to the government is bad, I support your freedom to think that. What I do not support is you taking that out on innocent people just trying to go to work, because they ain't the government.
Well, not one government worker on that train.
Of the 23 people injured, who knows what their philosophical and political beliefs are. It was just tragic to see in a place like Brooklyn, man, that celebrates its freedom, its openness, its culture, that happened. And I just wanted to make sure we just took a very brief moment of silence for everyone impacted by that shooting, for our country, and the different mental illnesses that we have. For those that are I think most susceptible to conspiracy theories, and become conspiracy theorists because of the experiences that they've had in their life, because of their inability to have connectivity with family and friends, because of the fact that they live in situations of solitude and isolation and don't have people loving them, that the conspiracies get a lot more traction. And I just want to, on this show, just make sure that we take a moment and take a moment just to celebrate the lives of the people impacted, but also a moment of silence for our country that these type of things happen. So let's just take a brief moment of silence now. I'm not a New Yorker, I'm a Floridian, but being here and living here, to think that something as simple and basic as riding the subway could put me in harm's way is alarming, man. It's scary. The suspect has been arrested. He's been denied a bond. They denied him a bond. And so we'll see where things go from here. But I want to at least take that moment of silence for everyone impacted by it. We go from that to other world news, man, because Brittany Griner, what's our saying here on the Ball Hog Sports Talk? What we say?
Free Brittany Griner.
Free Brittany Griner, man. Hashtag free Brittany Griner. For anybody within the live audience that can type that for me, go ahead and make sure you spell it right. Hashtag free Brittany Griner. Let's make sure that we keep that hashtag, but that conversation and circulation. The WNBA commissioner did speak about it during the WNBA draft this week. Shout out to her for having the courage to speak on this issue, no matter how politically sensitive it might be. Free Brittany Griner, man. This is someone who is a representative on this episode, Black Tax of the Ball Hog Sports Talk. The Brittany Griner is representative of Black people, Black women. She is a member of the LGBTQ community. She is an amazing athlete. These are communities that normally, if one of our greats had been detained in a volatile region of the world, there would be an uproar. There would be movements going around trying to make sure that we got our Black celebrity, our Black woman, our LGBTQ community member, our stellar athlete. These are normally communities that we speak up and speak out to make sure that we got our person back. And this seems to still be under the cloud of silence. So I was happy that the WNBA commissioner spoke to it this week during their draft. And we're going to say it here as many times as possible. Free Brittany Griner. The WNBA draft happened this week and the viewership was up significantly. The viewership was the highest it's been since 2004. It's up 20% from last year. And I think that is a sign. Right? It's a sign because it's up in the same year that you watched our women's college basketball up significantly, and it was, I think it peaked at 6 million viewers, but it was the most watched game since 2004. I don't know the comparison to this WNBA draft, right? On this show, we like to celebrate WNBA, especially me. My co-host, and you'll see ETP had to take off for the day. Normally we give him a proper exit. He had to take off for the day to take on some other obligations. But you know what it is. I celebrate the WNBA. I'm happy to see that the draft got eyes on it. I posted the top 10 needs of all the teams, or the top needs of all the teams. I like where the WNBA is heading, man. I know I had to sort of convince you that as a product, it was a good thing. It was something that you should watch.
I think you're talking about, you have me mistaken with E, who wants to see the WNBA 3-on-3 league. Not me. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of female basketball. Probably not as much as you, but
you're a fan. All right, cool. I'm glad to see other people are too. People are actually watching the draft. That's when you know that the interest is real, because there's no live action there. The only live action is the team choosing a person, but you're not going to see any basketball. So people viewing it and watching it means that I think the fandom is going up, which is good. So we're going to celebrate with the NCAA women's basketball tournament, great basketball. We're going to celebrate the WNBA getting more eyes on it, more viewership. We're then going to pivot and talk about Cam Newton. We're celebrating women in one sentence, and then we talk about Cam Newton. Cam Newton this week. Boy, Cam Newton. Cam Newton. If you thought he played bad while he was in New England, this week he said, hold my beer. If you thought he stuck up the joint after his infamous I'm back, and then we saw what I'm back really meant for the subsequent games with the Panthers. If you thought that was bad, he told you this week, hold my beer. There has been an ongoing debate since Cam Newton went onto the podcast, $1 million worth of game, with Gilly and his cousin Wallow. And he made what I would say were controversial statements. Yeah. Let's take a look, and you guys be the judge. I introduce you. Cam Newton, in his own words, says this. Let me make sure I get it right. I don't know if I can do it right. Actually, I can't.
Press play.
I was trying to press play. I can't do the press play. Let me try it again. You heard the words. I'll let you analyze it while I try to find it. Do you think Cam Newton, and basically saying women got to be in their place in order to be a air quote bad bitch, not quote, do you think he was out of line? Well, let's not say out of line. Let's just go with when you first heard it, what was your initial reaction? You got a daughter, but you also understand the social media world. He did call out men too, but when you first heard it, what were your emotional reactions to hearing Cam Newton's words? As I try to find it so we can put the video on. What were your initial reactions?
Well, before you get to hear from him, just to briefly summarize for people who had never heard anything, because I hadn't heard about it until you played the tape earlier. Basically, he's saying that his wife or his mother and his grandmother were real women, and they're not bad bees, right? And so by bad bees, he's saying, women say that they're bosses, but they don't know how to cook and they don't know when to be quiet. That was hard to listen to. Like, I don't know when to be quiet. I'm like, can I go to jail for listening? Like, saying, or am I supposed to turn him in?
Right.
But the first thing that really jumped to my mind is, like, of all the people who are trying to put women into a box of the role that they should be in, does he look at himself? Do you know how many people try to put him in a box every day and talk about his eccentric dressing and the scarves he wears and the purses? I mean, he basically dressed like a woman in church. And he's going to be judgmental about what a woman should be like. What if that same thing, he had on a diamond-studded ankle bracelet into his show walking in? Like,
Right.
nothing about him is a traditional, what you would think an old-fashioned view of a man should be. But then he wants to tell a woman what she should be. I mean, of all people, I can't believe he did that.
I,
So
I was with him for a bit of it, and he was like, he was talking about really. Here's how it started. He was talking. I'm gonna try to play the clip, but the clip I have is already edited, so you don't get the full brunt of what he says. But I'm gonna play it anyway, so I'll try to set it up. He was talking to Gilly and Wallow from $1 Million Worth of Game. Great podcast. They do a great job. Shout out to them. And he was saying he was raised with those people, and he got to experience what a real woman was, not just a bad B. And Wallow then asked, what's the difference? So initially he was going down a perfect path to talk about how his mother and grandmother showed him what it was to be an amazing woman, and he got to experience that firsthand. The follow-up question that Wallow asked, what's the difference? I don't think he really thought about it that much. He hadn't researched it. He wasn't prepared to make the distinction and the contrast between the two. And then he opened his mouth and he stuck his foot in it. But the concepts of what he was saying, that's where I want to talk about, because I've got 3 sisters and love them to death. And I think that I'm looking at this objectively when I'm hearing what he's saying and trying to sort of parse through it. But let's hear it from his mouth. Let me see if I can get that on here. Let's hear from his mouth as I try to grab it. This is how you know it's a live show.
And the producer left.
ETP was like, I got to go. All right, so we're going to do this. I'm going to share that audio. And we're going to do it like this. All right, let's go. Let's try it now. You ready for me now? You ready for me now, Big Flow Show?
I'm ready for you.
The only reason I didn't play it because I didn't think you were ready for me. All right, here we go.
I appreciate
Let's
that.
do it. Yeah, I got you.
A woman for me is handling your own, but knowing how to cater to a man's needs. But you can't cook.
Okay.
You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to allow a man to lead.
Okay, guys. So Cam Newton is in a lot of hot water.
All right, let's leave it there and get on out of there. Let's get it out of there. Cam Newton, like the gentleman was about to say, is in a lot of hot water. It was perceived and taken as very misogynistic. He talked about, he was saying that, you think you're a bad B, right? And he was playing off of what is really widely accepted and shared in social media. This, I'm a boss B. And the B being female dog. If for those of you who don't know what I'm trying to say, a female dog. And hot girl summer, all this. And then he abruptly said, yeah, but you can't cook. You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to cater to a man. The most misogynistic, stereotypical roles of women. And I think where he was going initially, he was going in the right direction. It was that follow-up question when Wallow said, okay, what's the difference? And he wasn't ready for the distinction. But I offer to you, because throughout the week, there have been a lot of people, men and women alike, that have supported his comments and said, hey, if you look at it in its totality, he had some valid points. And I will go out as far as to say, while he didn't have the best use of words in describing it, what he was trying to say is, if you're defining bad, air quote, bad meaning good, that you set yourself apart, you're distinctive as a woman. If you're defining that by just being able to go to a club and pop bottles and spend money or take somebody else's money, then you've got things misconstrued. He was trying to say that for him, being a woman, a real woman, a bad, meaning good woman, and he did distance himself from the word B. He said, I'm just using the word that women use. I'm not trying to degrade women at all. And then he changed it to women. Again, not trying to make up for Cam Newton and be his PR person and disaster, help him with disaster recovery, but just trying to give it, some objectivity. What he was trying to say is that doesn't make you bad. No, taking care of a family and being the centerpiece and the rock of a family, being able to do all those things, work and make your own money, while also being able to come home and being the rock that a man relies on, or the child or a grandchild relies on, is what, in his opinion, his definition, what makes you bad. Bad meaning good. Some of that I think is valid, because we do see a celebration of the deterioration by even just using the word B. Again, we did it last week. We'll do it again. Completely unqualified to be talking about this, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because none of us had no babies. We ain't women. But I think we, especially you as a girl dad, me as a brother to 3 sisters, I think we at least appreciate that your daughter, my sisters, are no less than anybody with testosterone in their DNA. More testosterone being a man. So I say that to say, what were the things that you took most issue with, and did he have a point? I think he had somewhat of a point, because I do hate to see the deterioration celebrated in social media circles of women. Even the use of the word B, right? It's almost like the N-word. We've talked about it, whether or not you could change it, the pronunciation of it. It's not with an ER, it's with an A. We own the word now. We've taken control of it. Don't have power over us anymore. I guess some women think the same thing is true about the B word.
Right.
You would call the woman a B in my day.
In our day,
you get punched in your mouth by that same woman. And then she going to go get her brothers. Then she going to go get, you going to get whooped for calling her a B. Now, women are calling themselves B. So I think that's the direction he was going, which has some validity in my humble opinion. But he got derailed.
I'm all for women owning that and taking it over and taking the power away, the same way we did with the N-word as far as taking the power. So I don't have any problem with that. I could smell where he was going, and I feel like he treaded some real shallow waters, or deep waters. I don't know which is probably the best analogy for that. But I think, the idea of a woman sitting here saying, oh, I'm a bad B, I'm a boss B, and doing all this stuff. And what that's starting to become, when you start thinking about like Megan Thee Stallion and some different things, is like
Cardi B.
Like, yeah. Okay, is that what we are? Is that the new standard? Is that what we're trying to be? When he starts thinking about, his mother and his grandmother being a real woman, his image of woman. I guess, theoretically, I shouldn't sit there. Women should not have to live up to what my standard of a woman is. But I would say my standard of a woman is probably closer to his grandmother and his mother than it is to Cardi B and whatever. That's my opinion. But I'm going to fall short of saying that a woman should care if that's my opinion. Now, I do think that there's something to be said about, like, if you're going to be claiming to be this big, strong woman, there's some strong woman traits. Now, is cooking one of those? I don't know. I think a man should know how to cook too. I think a family person should know how to. I think a woman, I think adult grown folks should know how to cook. That's just bottom line. We had to eat every day. You should know how to cook a meal. I do believe that, my friend of mine, I had a conversation, Leon Wallace, hopefully you're watching today. We had a conversation this week about our daughters and what we want for our daughters. What do we want? And, I want my daughter to come home with a strong man, right? I don't want a softie. I don't want her to some dude that she's bullying and pushing all over and do whatever. Because for me, my image of a man is going to be a strong leader of the family, whatever. If my daughter leads her family, I'm not going to be whatever. But, I feel like I want her to be, I have an image in my mind of what I would see for her. I'm going to accept whatever she brings, right?
Right. Not only accept, embrace, love. I'm going to back you up because I know the relationship you have with your daughter. You're going to do more than just accept. You're going to embrace, love, support.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever the words are, And so my only point is I have my opinions of what my image of everything is, but you got to fall short of saying that that's what the image of it should be, right? So there's a lot of dudes out there who are going to be subservient out there that people are very happy for. I don't want that for my daughter, but it's not about what I want. But if you ask me the question, we're having a conversation, that's how I look. So I think where Cam fell short is letting his opinion become confusing himself into thinking that that's somewhat of a standard that should be accepted, right? That's just not how the world works, right?
He
So
started with to me. He started with the to me part. Well, to me, but I think he should have started with it and ended with it. Right now, that's my opinion. He should have went with something like that's my opinion, and that's all.
But the whole like know when to be quiet, he went too far. Like, okay, I don't want my daughter to know when to be quiet with her man. That's not one of the traits I'm thinking look for. Yeah, I do. I'm happy that my wife knows or my daughter knows how to cook and do whatever, but I'm happy my son knows how to cook too. Like,
right.
I don't look at that as a female trait. I just look at that as a life skill that they should both have moving on. Supporting a man's needs. Yes, I think that I'm not going to say that with my daughter because it just doesn't support my brain. But I think a woman should know how to support a man's needs because a man should know how to support a woman's needs too. Right. I don't think that that's one way. So the reason why is homicide. Now I heard he did go on to talk about men as well.
He did.
I just think you can't let too much time go with the soundbite in between stuff these days and let it stand by itself because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, it's worth looking at it in its entirety. And that particular exchange was a little uncomfortable because we've become so accustomed, and we are. It's we are the politically correct world these days. And for him to say things that from a political correctness standpoint have fallen out of bounds, but she can't cook, she don't know when to be quiet, and she don't know how to cater to her man. I mean, if you're doing Family Feud and the question is, what are the most offensive, misogynistic statement? Like, he got 3 of the top 5 right there. Right? Survey says all 3 of them are going. Bing, he wins. Right? But I don't know, man. Travis Kelce's girlfriend, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs, his girlfriend, who oddly enough is a very profound social media figure, says in response to Cam Newton's interview on $1 Million Worth of Game with Gilly, in response to that and those statements we just alluded to, Travis Kelce's girlfriend says, this man said that you need to be able to cook and know when to be quiet because that's what his mama did. Like, boy, go date your mama then. It was interesting to see that. She called him a straight up bozo and did all these other things. In a way, though, as I'm looking at the reaction, I'm like, okay, that right there might be exactly what he's talking about. The fact that we even talking about Travis Kelce's girlfriend, who her name is Kayla Nicole. I had to look because she has notoriously put herself out there as Travis Kelce's girlfriend and has used that platform to say whatever she wants to say. Her right, entitled to it. But it was just interesting, like to refer to him as a boy, right? That has been a word notoriously known for its racist implications.
Right? She is black, though, right?
She is black. Call him a bozo, and and just the bravado in which the response was, it was kind of like this might be what he's talking about. Not necessarily that know when to be quiet because she don't need to be quiet. She's upset about it, but at the same time,
put it out in public. She's got a right to put it.
She got a right to it, but. I just thought it was interesting that Travis Kelce's girlfriend is now going to be the one. I would have loved to see, a new, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson respond to it, or Vice President Kamala Harris respond to it, because I think in his words,
they don't even respond to no damn camera.
Not that they would, but look, reporters ask people silly things all the time. What do you think about Cam Newton? Cam Newton is a public figure too, right? What do you think about Cam Newton's outtake or outlook on women? Or
Next
Michelle
question.
Obama, women that I think that have not only issue with what he said and how he framed it, but they absolutely defy any stereotype that they ain't a bad woman because of the stuff that they accomplish. And I just wish that we would have had a civil debate with people that weren't just going to be name calling. Call him a bozo and call him a boy. You're basically just, you're becoming the Cam Newton.
Exercising her right to express herself.
She has every right to express herself. She absolutely does. We'll leave it there, man. I think that all of the back and forth related to the idea in which Cam Newton shared, because there have been several men that I've looked at in the social media circles that have supported it. It's like, he's right, and several women who've taken issue with it, and vice versa. There have been
just
women.
Can't have on a scarf tied up in a knot with an ankle bracelet on, talking about traditional images of men and women.
So when you talk about the strong man that you want your daughter to bring home, the image of Cam Newton don't come to mind right away?
Not often. Not often. Maybe
Not
Cam
often
in the
at all.
uniform, but not Cam in his outfit. I'm not interested.
Cam Newton, who knew he was going to be the modern day Kevin Samuels? If you don't know who Kevin Samuels is, that's what it felt like when he said it. Every time you hear one of Kevin Samuels videos, you're like, oh my God, did he just say that? And Cam Newton did it. Just when you thought he couldn't damage his career anymore. Open mouth, insert foot, and away he goes with the misogynistic tour. I hope he's able to correct it, because I think what he was saying in there were some points. And the fact that he dated it back to his grandmother being a part of his life and helping him. He was raised by not one, not two, but three parental figures. He was trying to get somewhere that he never got to. And I'm looking forward to see if he ever gets it right. Let's go home on these last two topics. The first one is Deshaun Watson. The black tax of Deshaun Watson is being paid by none other than Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield went on a podcast this week. I can't think of the name of the podcast, but he went on a podcast and said he felt very disappointed and disrespected that the Browns front office told him one thing and went out and did another. And he's essentially putting himself out there. He was butthurt by all of the shenanigans of the Browns. And by shenanigans, they went and signed accomplished quarterback that they paid a ridiculous amount of money and guaranteed his contract. Baker Mayfield felt disrespected by that. The black tax of it says what? Does Baker Mayfield have a point? Did the Browns fumble the situation by not being as truthful and forthcoming as possible to Baker Mayfield, and now they got him in this unenviable spot? Hey, just sit the bench until we decide what we got to do with you and see if our starting quarterback, the one that we paid all that money, guaranteed, we got to see if our starting quarterback is going to be available. So until then, your services might be needed. Just stay right there. Does Baker Mayfield have a point, or is he crying what some people call white tears?
I say they did disrespect my man.
They disrespected him.
They disrespected him. I think the fact that they won't get rid of him and give him a chance somewhere is the worst part. No, we're gonna keep you here. We never know. We might need you to fill in and do whatever, but they won't get much for him anyway right now. So, but whatever. It's welcome to the game of football, right? Nobody cares. The business of the NFL, I should say. Business of the NFL don't give a damn about how you feel. We're gonna sit there and hold on to you and do whatever. But I mean, I guess there's one cure for everything: play better. Play better.
Amen.
And you wouldn't be in a situation. But
well, he can't. I don't know if he can use that cure now because he might not be on the field. Baker, touchdown maker. As a Browns fan, somebody supported you. Somebody went to bat for you. Somebody created a nickname for you. Baker, touchdown maker. I have to respond to these white tears on this episode. Black tax. I got to respond to your white tears. And I respond with, child, please. You must be crazy. You must be out your everlasting mind. You must have bumped your head. As bad as you played. Now, I have seen people go on show this week and opine and defend that Baker is right because the Browns encouraged him to go out there injured, and that led to his statistical downfall. And to them, I say, who cares? That too is the state of football. You ever heard the saying, you can't make the club in the tub? They're encouraging everybody to come back prematurely. They're encouraging everybody to go out and play at 75% because that's better than not playing at 0%. They're encouraging everybody to go give more than their body can allow because that's what the NFL is. And that is the same for everybody. So Baker Mayfield, miss me with your white tears on this episode of Black Tax of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. I reject your deposit. I rebuke you for trying to get upset that the NFL actually treated you like they treat everybody else. Deshaun Watson, come out here and ball out. And if they suspend you, Baker Mayfield, just be ready. Don't go throwing no picks. Just be comfortable enough, feel respected enough to go out there and put up at least a few stats while we need you, my brother. It was just interesting to see, man, the entitlement, right, that Baker Mayfield thinks that he had, felt that he had. You got your cherry bus, my brother. The truth of the matter is you're an NFL player, and NFL players have no security in their contracts. Hopefully with the new CBA, there will be some protections and get guaranteed contracts. But for now, there's only one guaranteed contract that I know of, and it happens to be your boss. I'm just joking. He ain't your boss, but he is your teammate, and he is the person in QB1 slot. You are now the QB2 slot, if that. And it just is what it is, man. There is no entitlement in the NFL. And it's been that way forever.
Just be happy you're still getting a check. Sorry, sure.
You're still getting a check. I ain't mad at you. You know what I'm saying? I ain't mad. I ain't crying for you. You getting a check. And I will today on tax day because everybody got to pay a tax. I know we extended it this year to the 18th since tax day falls on a holiday. But on this tax day, I got to tax Baker Mayfield. I'm taking my nickname back. You are no longer Baker touchdown maker. You just Baker Mayfield.
What a huge move that was.
It was, man. You know
what
what I mean? Breaking news. It's going to be breaking news. You know who's going to break the news? Adam Schefter is going to break this news that I just relinquished the nickname for Baker touchdown maker. He has been now diminished to just Baker Mayfield. I bring Adam Schefter up for a very purposeful reason. Adam Schefter this week, in trying to present breaking news and be the first to present something, did so, in my humble opinion, irresponsibly. We try to stay away from analyzing media as media types here on the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. That's right. Y'all going to see us on everybody's podcast. We got big thing coming, man. Big team coming. Right? We're going to keep our knees heavy, keep praying, keep on working, big team coming. So we try to stay away from analyzing other media figures, but in this case, I couldn't do it because I think it connects us to the concept today, the title of Black Tax. Adam Schefter, in reporting on Dwayne Haskins' untimely and tragic death at the very young age of 24 years old. When he first reported it, and I got to get the actual quote. I don't want to mess up the quote. If you don't mind, research already has it. Thank you, my brother. The original tweet said, Dwayne Haskins, this is how he is reporting that this 24-year-old man who had just lost his life within 6-7 hours of this tweet. Also, breaking report. This is the way he worded it. Dwayne Haskins, a standout at Ohio State before struggling to catch on with Washington and Pittsburgh in the NFL, died this morning when he got hit by a car in South Florida, per his agent, Cedric Saunders. Haskins would have been 25 years old on May 3rd. The very first qualification of Dwayne Haskins in this tweet and this report is he was a standout at Ohio State. He was a standout at Ohio State before struggling to catch on with Washington and Pittsburgh in the NFL. Several current NFL players took issue with it. Several players took that tweet and responded. I think since Adam Schefter has deleted the tweet, Gil Brandt also commented, another person that while in the media circles that we try to stay away from, in this episode of Black Tax is worth talking about. Gil Brandt says, when he comments on Dwayne Haskins, a 24-year-old who had just died within 12 hours of this comment. He was a guy that was living to be dead. It was always something with Haskins. Maybe if he stayed in school a year, he wouldn't do silly things like jogging on a highway. In this episode of Black Tax, the reason I wanted to share this last is because I think there's a cost, a price to be paid when media figures, in this case, two white men, look at our lives as though the only real value that the life has is to their profession of reporting on sports. The only real value that the life has is synonymous with the highlights that we produce, the stats that we amass, the athletic prowess that we show off. A 24-year-old young black man lost his life tragically, prematurely. Obviously, the details are still being hashed out. But Adam Schefter, in his race to be first, in my opinion, was irresponsible. But that's my opinion. I can say objectively, he was reckless when putting a value on a black life. That's somebody's son. I got a call early that morning from someone in New Jersey who is closely associated with him because they know I'm from Florida, asking me, could you help me get the details? Meanwhile, Adam Schefter has this tweet in the universe completely devaluing a 24-year-old man's life. I open up this to take it home just because I think the concept of Black Tax, the concept that we started with on this day, celebrating Jackie Robinson Day, 75 years after 1947 integration, and how it was the beginning of something in the way of integration, but also the beginning of Jackie Robinson having to endure all types of crazy behavior from fans, all types of people, throwing out jeers and racial epithets and spitting on him as he was just trying to travel and do his job to play baseball. On this day, this moment makes me think that there's still a lot to do. And whether it be Adam Schefter or Gil Brandt, it just seems as though that recklessness in describing a 24-year-old young man who had just died, a father, a son, a husband, to describe it that way in the context of he shouldn't have left Ohio State that soon, to describe it that he struggled catching on with Washington and the Steelers, what that got to do with the price of tea in China, man? It's a 24-year-old young man. Only in these situations do I say that's the Black Tax. The complete devaluation of our lives. I know if you wanted to weigh in on it, man, I know it's a little heavier than we normally go out on, but at the same time, I feel as though, and we did take a moment of silence for everybody in Brooklyn. I'll do so the same for Dwayne Haskins and his family as we depart. I know if you want to weigh in on it, I know we normally stay away from trying to analyze media types as we try to build what we're doing in media. But I thought this was a reckless, irresponsible display of how the Black Tax and how they look at our lives is different. It's just different. I don't know for a fact because I don't have anything to compare it to, but a 24-year-old white guy, I don't think that Adam Schefter is talking about, him struggling to catch on with an NFL team. Not only was it factually incorrect because he had a chance to start this year for the Steelers, it's tone deaf. It's ignorant. It ain't racist.
And he got struggling to catch on with Washington. He got drafted by him.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Struggling
first round.
to catch on. Yeah, like
I think what he meant was he never became the guy at Washington. But again,
I mean,
why are we talking about
his
that
excuse for this is going to be like, well, it's just facts. Well, factually, that's wrong. Struggling to catch on. He got drafted, so it's not like he tried out and barely got on the team and he was bouncing. He got drafted, and now he got traded to Pittsburgh, which they were trading him thinking that maybe he could be their guy. So I don't know about struggling to catch on. He's 24 years old, so it's not like he's been in the NFL for 12 years.
He was a backup to Ben last year. He's going to get a chance to start. Yes, he's going to have to compete with Trubisky this year, but he's going to get a chance to start.
I like his chances against Trubisky. So, I mean,
touche, Bears fan, touche.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? So, like, okay, why are you saying that? But again, like, I can understand, like, sometimes you got to let people know who the person is and you got to put some descriptors, right? In a time like this, that he just passed away, you don't have any idea how many people are involved, what happened. You don't know the story. You just know this guy died tragically. You know, to say he was a standout at Washington and or standout in Ohio State, and he was he the 15th pick in the draft, something like that?
2019. I know he's first round. I don't know.
He was first round draft choice of the Washington Redskins, if you want to say that. And then boom, he passed tragically. But to sit there and throw like, oh, that guy, okay. So if you didn't say that, then I didn't know. So I think Brant and Scott Bibb mentioned, not Shepner's finest moment, but Brant's quote was absolute trash. I think Brant, that's cancellation type shit right there. I mean, like, you are bashing this dude again to say he was jogging on the highway. And I don't even know Haskins. Did he have a trouble pass? Did he get in trouble on?
I mean, no. I think he had issues in Washington that were more about his maturity or lack thereof. There were a lot of experts that said that he would have helped himself tremendously by staying at Ohio State. He did have some issues at Ohio State. But when I say issues, he acted like a young man.
But to say he's living to be dead when he's dead now, who do you think you are, man? You know what I mean? Like, do you have any sort of soul at all that you just sit there and put a comment out there like that? I mean, I didn't know who, to be honest with you, I didn't know who Gil Brandt was by name. I saw him by face until this came out. But like, that's just a tacky dude. You have no idea what he was doing, man. The guy could have been running across the street to save somebody. You have no idea what the story is, and you want to bash this dude and make it seem like he's living to be dead. Now, your gut might say, man, what's going on? Why were you trying to cross the highway? It just sounds crazy. But you know what? At the end of the day, you weren't there. You don't know the story. To bash a dead person like that and to come out publicly and do it, like, there's a lot of hate in your heart for that. I don't know, Gil, so I'm not going to say it has to be race related, but I'm just saying you're a tacky individual, Gil Brandt, and
I don't
should be ashamed of yourself.
I don't know him either, but I raise it here in this episode of Black Tax because I do think it is indicative of the value or lack thereof that people put on Black lives. If you look at our criminal system, you look at how people are sentenced, there is a correlation. If your victim is white and Black, the correlation is Black lives are devalued. And when I look at this, the Black tax here is Adam Schefter saying this. And yes, he was more irresponsible than malicious. Right? Gil Brandt was malicious in his statement. But still, I think it has to do with that messed up value system. To me, that's the Black tax. It's the messed up value system on our lives. Because anybody that dies at the young age of 24 years old, the last thing I'm thinking about describing them as someone that struggled to catch on in Washington and Pittsburgh. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this kid's family, his parents, his child, his wife have to be devastated. Because you don't plan, when you're looking at your life and you're planning for tomorrow, you don't think 24 is when your life ends. And so I'll wrap up this episode of Black Tax with that. And someone does say, that it was lazy and thoughtless reporting. Even that, I think, yes, it was, but we're giving them a benefit of the doubt. I think a lot of times your subconscious plays out in how you present things publicly. I think subconsciously that young black man's life wasn't worth the value of giving it a sincere, considerate, affectionate approach when announcing it to the world. There were some of his family members first time hearing about that untimely death was with that tweet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll leave it there, man, on this episode of Black Tax. Any shout outs or any parting shots before we get out of here, Big Flow Show?
Happy Easter.
And with that, happy Easter. Normally, I'll be all dressed up on Easter. I apologize to those who are watching live and seeing the audio visual part of this. Normally, I'll be in shirt and tie. I'm in a backwards hat with a black hoodie on because it's Black Tax. It's Jackie Robinson Day. They extended the tax day to next Monday. It's Good Friday. And I'm feeling as though all the good vibes said, I ain't got to dress up today. But you best believe on Sunday, baby, I'm going to have on something nice and light with them pastels with a bow tie. I'm going to be looking every part of Easterish. I'm going to stop short of going Cam Newtonish. But I'm going to make sure that I play them pastels right as a Florida boy. For those of you who do celebrate Easter, we hope that you enjoy the reason for the season. Enjoy the reason for the season. Enjoy your family. It's been a long 2.5 years or 2+ years, 2 years, and let's call it a few months of pandemic. So hopefully you get time to spend with your family. In this episode of Black Tax on Jackie Robinson Day, we've celebrated all the sacrifices that a pioneer like Jackie Robinson made. We also acknowledge that some of the wins that he achieved in that accomplishment came with sacrifice. It came with a lot of sacrifice. And as we look at this concept of Black Tax and we put it into the contemporary analysis of things like Dwayne Haskins in that coverage, just remember, man, we have to be considerate of all human life. And if the tragedy in Brooklyn didn't teach us that, just going to work on a work day and getting on the subway could result in you being in harm's way of somebody else's mental illness. Just cherish your life. Cherish life. And I'll end the episode there. It's been another great episode. Like we ask you every week, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe. Tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe both to our YouTube channel and subscribe in whatever space that you consume your podcast. This has been the Ball Hog Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. I'm your boy. I got to be the co-host with my man, the Big Flow Show, in the building, signing off. My man ETP had to get out of here a little earlier. And I'm your boy, B Brown ESQ, a.k.a. The Ball, a.k.a. The Mouth of South, a.k.a. Mr. Excessive Celebration. We brought it to you rough, rugged, and raw. The only way we do. We'll be back next Friday with another episode. This has been the Black Tax episode of the Ball Hog Sports Talk. And officially, we is out. Peace.
Still on.
Oh, why didn't it end? I guess it wanted to continue.
Outtakes, outtakes.
Outtakes.
Maybe hit stop now.
It's going to end in 5, 4. I don't know why it's not ending.
Hit the button.
I've hit it. So